Well, hello there. Now, I've been playing PoE 2 for about 10 hours now, and I just wanted to share my first impressions. The game is great, the video's done, bye. I'm kidding, of course, but my first impressions are very positive. I started playing as a sorceress, of course, but I dabbled a little bit with the mercenary as well. There were some issues here and there, but knowing GGG, they will be fixed and probably soon. I've been playing with WASD movement, which to me feels far superior than using a mouse, as it enables me to move forwards or strafing while keeping enemies in my sights, which really felt good. Now, I've never been a fan of the idea of WASD movement, but I gotta say it does feel a lot better to me. I did try using mouse only, and there seems to be an issue with your character moving about like a drift car in Need for Speed. They seem to have a bit of inertia when using a mouse, which leads to a feeling that your character is floating, as it was pointed out by some streamers and fans as well. Again, I'm pretty sure GGG will address the issue in due time. In my D4 review, I mentioned that the skills feel great, that they connect with enemies and cause them to die with unique animation effects. Diablo 4 did a great job there, but now it seems it has been overshadowed by Path of Exile 2. I also spoke about playing the Ice Sorceress in D4 and freezing enemies and shattering them. Well, need I say more? They did a fantastic job. If you put a flame wall and shoot lightning skills through it, or any other type of skill, their visual effects will reflect that. So we get things like spark bolts imbued with fire, or even ice bolts imbued with fire. The skills synergize with each other and the effects reflect that, which is really awesome. I've also been trying to play the game as casually as possible to see how friendly it is for newcomers or other casuals who couldn't get into PoE 1. Now, from my perspective, as someone who has played PoE 1 for a while, but mostly casually, it does seem that the game does a much better job of onboarding players. For example, they got rid of the socket linking mechanic and the socket coloring, which does make the game feel easier to get into. They also made it so that when you want to add a new support gem, you, by default, get 3 recommended gems to unlock, which I assume is quite useful for newcomers. You can disable this easily and see the entire offering of support gems, which is a lot for a new player. I've been using only the recommended gems so far, and I had little issue clearing content. But we'll see how it goes further into the game. I do expect some challenges after all. And this is without using a build guide too. During my stream, one person pointed out that the wording can get a bit confusing because instead of saying that you get to choose a skill when you right-click it, they use the term engraving. And a very good point which they made was that if we have no uncut skill gem, we can't get to the menu in which we usually select a new support skill to see what is on offer. I can see how that would get a bit confusing for a new player, and I hope that GGG makes the process even easier when it comes to onboarding new players. I, myself, didn't have an issue that much with the term engraving, as my gamer brain just immediately jumped to click it and see what happens, and we'll take it from there. And I do also have more experience with Path of Exile 1 as well, so I might be biased in this respect. If anyone else had issues with onboarding, please leave your comments below and I'll make sure to go through them and see what other issues exist when it comes to welcoming new players into the game. Now, let's talk a bit about the boss fights. I have seen that some people were complaining that it's mostly dodge roll, shoot, and then win. I can't say that I agree with that, because in PoE 1 it was also about positioning, minus the dodge roll, or gearing up so much that you trivialize all content in the game. Now, I am a fan of powering up to obscene levels of power and destroying everything One Punch Man style, but to me, the boss fights felt fine, especially for Act 1. The only issue I felt was that when I died, it was due to enemies boxing me in so that there was no way of escaping anywhere. It feels like they should give us the ability to phase through them every once in a while, but still have infinite dodge roll, while phasing could only occur something like every 10 seconds or something like that. It would be on a cooldown for a while before you could reuse it. Now, unlike PoE 1, I didn't feel that the difficulty was unfair in the early game. In Path of Exile 1, in the level where you first encountered Roa enemies, it was just infuriating to just get smashed down repeatedly while still only having 1 or 2 skills at my disposal. It wasn't impossible to overcome, of course, far from it, but it did feel unfair. Now, admittedly, it is a skill issue, but for new players who have no skill yet, it is of course a much more difficult challenge than for veteran players. Exploring the map also feels better and more interesting, with mini-boss fights scattered throughout the map. I feel that GGG made the right call there, even though I was skeptical before trying the game out. Combat just seems to have more substance in PoE 2 than in 1, where by the end game nothing was really a threat except for the final boss. The addition of couch co-op was simply a brilliant idea. I don't know why this isn't more represented in gaming. Sure, everyone has internet and can play from the comfort of their own home, but nothing can beat that feeling of sitting down with a friend, being in the same room, having some snacks and having fun together in front of one screen. I also think that it will make getting new players into the game much easier because, for example, if I know how to play PoE 1 and my wife doesn't, and she really doesn't, we can play together and I don't need to keep switching between mine and her PC to show her what's what because we're on the same screen. So I can just show her how I do something and she can repeat the process. It makes learning the game much easier when there's somebody there to teach you in front of the same screen. So I think this was a brilliant idea which should be utilized far more than it is in other video games. Where possible, of course. So now let's talk about microtransactions and stash tabs. I was honestly in disbelief when I saw that they were going to transfer all our MTX and stash tabs from PoE 1 to PoE 2. I feel great respect for GGG for doing this. They didn't have to. They could have made us buy everything all over again, but decided not to. This is just impressive and honestly heartwarming to me. Not to mention that the people who already spent above $480 in PoE 1 also got free access to PoE 2. This is how you build player trust and respect. You don't feel compelled to give them money, you actually want to, because developers like this deserve to be supported. The game did have server issues on launch day, but GGG resolved them quite quickly, especially when compared to Blizzard and 11th Hour games. There are still some issues, but they are working on them, and I do expect them to be resolved soon, given GGG's track record. Now, I did have an issue where the game would crash to the desktop when I was porting to town, and sometimes even at random points. I did a little research after ending my stream, and it seems I'm not the only one. This is happening for some players. A minority, but it is happening. For me, the problem seems to have been that I didn't update my GPU drivers, and after that, after I updated them, I didn't get the crash anymore. So, my bad. Honestly, I'm very excited about this game and I can't wait to dive back in and explore the endgame and trying out all the other classes in the game. All 36 of them, once we take ascendancies into account, when and as they become available. The future of PoE seems to be blindingly bright in my opinion. And as always, I wouldn't be me if I didn't mention my little personal gripe which happens in every game as a service. That is, why no offline mode? Now this is not a criticism, I just personally love the idea of having an offline mode in case of the internet collapsing, servers being on fire, or a post-apocalyptic gaming session after which there would be no internet and humanity has been all but exterminated by their own folly and... Whoa. Well, I got a little bit carried away there. No, when it comes to this issue, I want to know that I will always have access to the game, even if they someday shut down the servers, which of course doesn't seem likely, but this goes for all games. It's not Path of Exile specific. I also do enjoy modding games, so there's that as well. I love modding as a hobby, and that's how I have fun, for example in Last Epoch and Grim Dawn from time to time. And Path of Exile and Diablo have always been my prime candidates for that. But enough about what I want. What do you guys think? Has Path of Exile 2 met your expectations? What would you like to see added or improved in the future? Please leave your thoughts down below, and if there's enough of a conversation going, I might make another video discussing your opinions and impressions. And also, if you liked the video, please give it a like, share it with friends, as it does go a long way towards supporting me as a content creator, and I guess I'll see you in the next one, Exiles.